Hi, I'm Claude, also known as Noyark and NYRK. I've been producing for about 10 years, and today I'm going to deconstruct my track, The Muse, released on Esouh Records. I got inspired for this track by Moodymann. I was watching his interview on Red Bull Academy, something like that, and I said what he said really resonated with me, and so I decided to use his acapella and put it in a track.
I'm not into this to press up a mass amount of records. I'm not into this to be traveling around the motherfucking world. I'm not into this to impress anybody. I'm into this for my own heart and soul. A lot of people, after work, you gotta go home, you take a bath. A lot of people go home, you fuck your wife. A lot of people go home, you cut your grass. I go home, and I fuck that motherfucking MPC all fucking night.
So as you can see, the acapella really resonated with me. At the time I was going through a breakup, so I was a bit, pissed off and heartbroken. But then I listened to Moodymann and I said, this is why I'm here. I'm here to produce music, try and, put the grooves into people's hearts and body and soul. And the track came about.
A lot of people go home, you cut your grass. I go home and I fuck that motherfucking MPC all fucking night.
So these are the drums. We have the kick here. This straightforward 4x4 kick. There's a kick and the hi-hat. I kept them in the same channel, I don't know why. And then we have a drum loop. I can't remember from which sample pack I got it, but it's groovy enough, so it does the job. I added a phaser here, so that it doesn't sound, generic. And then I added a snare and hi-hats, which is basically the main groove. And together they sound like this. Because obviously when you're making house music, you always need to keep the groove there, the bounce. The groove you get it by playing it in. You have to play the snare. And ideally don't quantize everything as much, so that everything sounds a bit raw. Because if you quantize everything will sound robotic, and it will be, it will sound really digital. So it's not ideal for house music. And then we have some percussion, which this basically helps the bass and the groove. So if I keep this one and the kick together, it will sound. Okay, and then we have the strings. It's basically, I think it's a G minor chord. So here it is. And that is basically carrying the whole groove and melody throughout almost the whole track. Then there is the bubbles, which is this one. This is a loop, but then I chopped it up. So this is the full loop. But then I made an envelope, so I always keep this part. So underneath this bubble synth, there's the same exact thing happening, but it's panned to the left, and it's pitched 12 semitones, so it's an octave. So now together they will sound like this. and then with the drums. And then we have, I think, the most important thing, and a lot of people ask me how I make the bass and how it's done, how it's so fat. But at the end of the day, it's nothing, you know, spectacular, or it is a sine wave, and this is all it is. But obviously you play the low notes and you'll have the sub bass. You have this one. And with the drums it will sound like. Okay, and then we have the Rave sound, which is, and we removed a bit of highs, because obviously when you remove highs it will sound less digital and more analog, and it will here, exactly.
And I fuck that motherfucker.
At the drop.
And I fuck that motherfucking MPC all fucking night.
There is the sample, which is someone shouting. I got it from Splice. And then we have this, you know, this sound, which is also from Splice.
You take a bath.
And then, most importantly, there is the Moodymann vocal, which is from YouTube. I just, you know, converted it from YouTube to MP3, and all I added is a bunch of EQ. I added this one to remove the lows, the EQ8.
I'm not into this to press up a mass amount of records. I'm not into this to be traveling around the motherfucking world.
Useless.
I'm not into this to impress anybody. I'm into this for my own heart and soul. A lot of people, after work, you gotta go home, you take a bath.
Reverb.
A lot of people go home, you fuck your wife.
And
to
then
press up a mass amount of records. I'm not into this to be traveling around the
roll off the extra
world.
lows, because sometimes Ableton isn't as powerful. So I just load up to make sure that the lows are in there and the mix isn't as muddy.
I'm not into this to press up a mass amount of records. I'm not into this to be traveling around the motherfucking world. I'm not into this to impress anybody. I'm into this for my own heart and soul. A lot of people, after work, you gotta go home.
And here, there's a tape chord, it's called. It's just a sample, and basically all I've done is I reversed it, so it sounds like this. And then exactly after it, there's the actual sample. So it will feel like something is coming, and then at the drop, it just releases. So you have
PC all fucking night.
tape. I always add a little bit of tape, so this sounds like it's playing from vinyl. Makes everything sound crispy, and especially if you're using a bunch of digital synths, you want some noise or something happening that doesn't sound too clean. And I just get a sample of tape and I copy and paste it throughout the whole track. So it's this one. It sounds like you're frying something like bacon. Okay. And then in the break,
just sum up. Just something I like to touch and feel. It feels good.
Show you VST. There it is. It's addictive keys. VHS infomercial.
You know, a lot of people ask me, I'm married. How come you? My SB1200, my bass, my keyboard, them are my bitches and them are my hoes. I turn them motherfuckers on at night. I turn them bitches off at night. The bitches go out there, make my motherfucking money. I send them bitches over there to take care of my business. That's why I'm here. They're my hoes.
So throughout the track, there is this acid bass line, okay? And it's made from this beautiful plugin, the ABL3, because as you can see I don't have any analog equipment, try to use everything in the box. And the only thing that's being modulated here is the cutoff. So obviously when something is going to happen, ideally you put the cutoff up, exactly before the break.
Fuck that motherfucker at night.
And then when the break comes in, instead of making it really high, I put it really low, so that the bass has more preference.
All fucking night.
And here, oh, there they are. And here exactly before the break, I added some percussion. And I didn't edit it, I didn't remove any highs or add any highs or cut any lows, so that it will sound really raw, and it will kind of cut through the speakers and cut through the mix. So here it is.
You understand?
And also, zoom in. I did some percussion here, just to give the break a little bit of excitement.
You know, a lot of people ask me, I'm married, how come you got all these women around, you know, that's no. These are beautiful women, they help me inspire myself. My bitches and my hoes is my NPCs.
At this part, I made sure that I remove the bass before the drop or chorus, because when you remove the bass and then you add it in the chorus, you will feel it much more. So in this break, this bass,
My SB1200, my bass, my keyboard, them are my bitches and them are my hoes. I turn them motherfuckers on at night, I turn them bitches off at night. That's why I'm here. They're my hoes.
So basically all I did here, I re-recorded into another channel the strings with the crystallizer, so there's this effect on it. I put it off so you can hear. And I recorded that delay, I turned it to a WAV file, and I kept it here just to add the suspense before the drop comes in.
The bitches go out there and make my mother. I send them bitches over there to take care of my business. That's why I'm here. They're my hoes.
So basically, that's the whole track. On the master bus, I've added some EQ. Show you, I rolled off a bit of highs. As usual, I take a lot of highs off to make it sound so digital. I removed some highs from this one too, which is a great EQ. Just rolled off some highs here, and top end. And lastly, I added this limiter, which is the Pro L. Everybody knows which one it is. And that's basically it. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed this episode of In the Grooves. Hopefully, when this COVID pandemic stuff ends, we'll party again, drink again, dance again. See you.